So you have these friendship like archetypes of like common maybe issues in friendships. Can you share what some of these archetypes are?
Yeah. So I always say that, we see this a lot online, like the types of friends, like that gets so many clicks, right? If I do a video on like 3 types of friends, it's going to do well. But what we decided to do in the book was to figure out what are some of the 9 most common problems that tend to emerge specifically among women and put them into like friend types. And the truth is you might be one of these types to somebody.
I recognized one in myself.
Did you?
I'll call it out.
So some of
call
them,
it when we get there.
So some of them include the negative friend. Okay. Some of them include the...
Okay, tell us what's the negative friend.
So the person who you find yourself being depleted every time you're together. And this could take the form of her chronic complaining. It could take the form of criticism. Like anything you say, she's got something to say. She's got an opinion and it feels like such a downer. Or kind of low self-esteem on her own. So sometimes we want to build her up, but we're exhausted from trying to build her. So either way, detracting from the joy that you have in your friendship.
Definitely, I've been there and having friends like that. And I just like walk away every time just feeling like trauma dumped on and low. And again, sometimes you're in a phase of life. And that's why after my divorce, I don't ever want to be that friend. So I almost like felt bad, like even being vulnerable because I never want to be that friend. I had to learn it's like that negative Nancy friend, or no hate to Nancy. I know we're not supposed to use that. Politically correct here. The negative friend. There's a difference of going through a chapter versus like perpetually negative. Totally. And you give them advice and they're just like shooting it down. And it's just like, so what do you really want?
Yeah.
And they probably just go through life like that.
Yeah, which is really hard. It's hard to befriend someone who's determined to not have joy. Yeah. It's just really hard. And, and I love that you just said, like, because sometimes we so fear being the negative friend, we share none of the hardship. Because I don't want to bring you down. And I totally get that. And I can sympathize with that. And it feels noble on the surface, but it removes one of the benefits that friendship's supposed to afford you is somebody to take your troubles to. And I just think it's a matter of monitoring it. And there is research from the Gottmans that finds that the most successful relationships have a positivity to negativity ratio of 5-1 because of how heavily negative interactions weigh on us. So essentially, if you guys have 1 negative interaction, you would kind of need like 5 positive exchanges to outweigh that. So I just say, like, if you took an aerial view of your friendship and looked down at the last 10 interactions, exactly how many were the venting, complaining, something to think about.
That's huge, because I would say most friendships don't pass that test, because what I see most females use friendships for is therapy.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to vent to you, you're going to listen, and then we're going to trade places. Like there's some other meme I saw. It's like friendship is really taking turns being crazy. It's like, okay, I'm going to be off the ledge right now. You're going to help me. Then you're going to be off the ledge in something else that I'm okay about. And, and it's like, that happens. And like, that is also what friendships are for. Yeah. But then sometimes, especially I feel with long distance friendships, is you don't make the positive new memories. You're just constantly updating, typically on the grievances, rather than, I don't know, like going to the beach one day or getting your nails done together, and these positive interactions that aren't so needing to hold space for each other. So it's a good reminder for those of us who, I feel those of us who are really deep, we tend to have very deep friendships, but then sometimes we just need, and certain friendships too, like I have some friends that are like very light, like our friendship is like going to Carnival and like being really sparkly, and like other friendships where it's just very like deep. And I feel like each friendship also finds their own tone.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I just think that, to your point, if we find that we have created a habit or an ecosystem of life updates that are negative, somebody does have to take a time out and say, you know what, beach day, we're not even talking about our troubles today. I just want to enjoy you. Okay. It's like, it can be playful, but sucking us out of that perpetual co-rumination, which is not healthy, So some of us have the negative friend. Others of us might have the love obsessed friend.
Okay, that was fine.
Talk to me.
So when I was reading your book and I saw the love obsessed friend, I immediately sent a voice note to my best friend, Rosie. I was like, I'm sorry. Don't leave me. I'm the love obsessed friend. And you know what? I was never the love obsessed friend when I was married.
Sure.
I didn't give a shit. I was like, I'm good, living my life. I was like more work obsessed, I would say.
Oh.
Like we would just talk more about that. But then I think every single friend is love obsessed. Because when you're single, it's like, dating and potential romance is such a big deal in your mind. And it's like all you think about. And then also it's this thing about being single that I feel like I am like the entertainment for my friends. Like, let's be real. It is. And so, because they ask me, they're like, oh, what happened with so-and-so, or what's the update there? So I feel like I owe it to the squad, But then it's like, oh my God, I mean, I used to do this last year. I don't do this anymore, but like so-and-so watched my story. And then I realized, I'm like, I don't think Rosie cares if this person watched my stories. She doesn't need a screenshot every time, you know? And so I started even like last year being like, hey, if you don't want to hear this. And she was like, you know what? It's like, because she's in like a 21-year relationship. So she's like, it's entertaining. She's like,
give me something juicy
for me. But I'm like, at any point, if it's just getting, like, I don't bring as much of it that I used to when I first became single that I do now, because I mean, I guess if I've ever had a love-obsessed friend, I was also really into it just because I'm really into, like, love. Like, that's fun for me. But I do think it gets annoying when you keep giving the same advice to that person and they don't listen. They keep getting back together with the ex and that kind of thing. So I take ownership of my part, but I am entertaining, so we'll give you that.
Hey, isn't that a little flavor, you know, with like these interesting updates? I'm sure they appreciate that in their lives.
Exactly.
I think for most women, that becomes irritating to them. And again, I've been in that place. I think it becomes a strain to the friendship when it's things like canceling plans last minute, a lot of times because you got a better offer, or, you know, getting to the point where you never ask about her because your latest romantic development is dominating the conversation. Doing things that make her feel in any way that she's just the placeholder. But if you get a better offer. So I think it's things like that strain the friendship and not necessarily.
Girls who like ditch you to hang out with a guy, it's a hard
That's so hard.
Hard no.
Yeah. Like I try to be sympathetic. Okay, I get it. But also, I mean,
maybe it's like a once thing, but it's like, why is this guy changing up plans with you? I'm not. And we're coming to his schedule right now. By the way, he's probably not going to be in the picture next month.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So get out your system.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the thing. Most friendships outlive most relationships.
Correct. So that's another one that's been kind of tricky. There's also, you know, the jealous friend. And it's so funny because even if you Google female friendship, it populates with jealousy. And so it's just a prevalent thing of sensing, okay, is she envious right now or not? And then it feels kind of cringy to say it because it makes you look like you're feeling yourself to be like, I think she's jealous. Like nobody wants to be that girl. Yeah. But sometimes you're like, okay, I don't think I'm crazy. I'm sensing that she's reluctant to celebrate me. She doesn't want to hear like any positives and it feels really uncomfortable. So that's one that women struggle with as well in a friendship and definitely threatens the trajectory of that relationship.
That's one thing I'm really grateful for. I don't have any jealous friends in my life because I'm just surrounded by other people who are, you know, authors and podcast hosts and entrepreneurs and doing their own amazing things. So that honestly has probably really helped me in my career because I can share and celebrate. Like I just had my album launch party last week and they're all here and they're listening and, you know, they've seen me through their chapters and I will always celebrate them. I did have a jealous friend when I first moved to LA 10 years ago. And yeah, it was always like anything I said, it was like she wouldn't respond. She would just like add her own story and just like try to like match it.
Yeah.
And then I got into a relationship and she was very possessive over me and like felt abandoned because we were also kind of like very, very close friends. And being in a relationship does really shift things.
Yeah.
And then the friendship wasn't serving me for all these different ways. And I kind of was like stepping away. And then she actually wrote me a note being like, I know the reason you stepped away is because I'm really jealous of you.
Wow.
And she actually shared that. And it was like, I kind of subconsciously realized it, but I didn't totally realize it. And then she said that, and then it kind of all made sense where those actions were coming from.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually love that she was able to get to a point to say, that's a me problem, which so often we don't hear.
It made me not want to resume that. Like, getting that letter didn't make me be like, oh yeah, you were just super jealous of me the whole time. Let's be friends. Now I felt like a little bit more unsafe.
100%. I was just going to use that word because it's a safety thing. You'd like to think you can kind of relax into who you are with friends, but as soon as you begin to feel a certain pressure to measure your words and to filter out what to share and what not, it can be mentally exhausting. And again, feel unsafe that I'm going to expose myself or make myself vulnerable to her if she learns this information. And that's really difficult. So there are those different archetypes and there are others, but the reason we put that in the book is because sometimes when we have an issue with our friend, we reduce her to the problem she presents, you know? So you are not a full human to me. If it's this one thing, then I start to see it everywhere. It grows. I'm really into like my side and experience of this. I probably haven't paused to be like, okay, wait a second. She might be going through this, to have some compassion. And before we know it, the friendship ends because we slowly, gradually, I know I've done it, slowly, gradually pull away. But is it something that could have been corrected if we had the courage to say, okay, what's going on? Which is something we often just don't do.